Hey guys, Steven here, Fanatic Perspective. So Tran and I just finished watching the national championship game. Alabama goes 13-0, wins the national championship, wire-to-wire champions, 52-24 of Ohio State. Wasn't the most interesting or thrilling national championship game, but very interesting for Texas fans. And, there's going to be a lot of Steve Sarkeesian excitement and breakdown, especially with him being on his way to Austin tomorrow on the heels of a national championship. So we're going to break down a lot of stuff here. Couple announcements I want to make before Tran and I get into our discussion. Number one, take attendance, hit the like button. You know what to do. Those of you who have been subscribing, I'm starting to see a big uptick in subscribers. I think we've added almost 150 over the last week or so. So just really thankful. I know it's like 50-50 split on people that are subscribed who watch and that are not. So those of you who are, hitting that subscribe button to help get us to 10,000 subscribers, hopefully, this year, we're really thankful for it. Another shout out I want to give, brother RJ Young, who is a fellow YouTuber and a great friend of ours, who is now a Fox Sports college football analyst. I'm very, very proud of him. He did a great job on the Fox Sports Watch Party today with Joel Klatt. Tran and I were able to check that out, so wanted to give a shout out to my brother over there. And Tran and I will be on we're actually going to be doing our own kind of watch party and roundtable tomorrow night, live chat. I'll have the link out tomorrow during the day. We'll have some of our friends on just to not only talk about tonight's game, but kind of recap the season and where our respective programs are moving forward to. And then one more announcement. Roshan Johnson, congratulations. Got accepted to the McCombs Business School. We found out today, so I'm very, very happy for him and his family. That is a tremendous achievement for any student. Student athlete is even more incredible considering how rigorous that program is. So congratulations to him handling his business in the classroom. Tran, I know I had a lot to say there, so hopefully you can take me off the hook here. Just your impressions on tonight's game. What stood out to you, and we can go from there.
It looked like a glorified walkthrough in my eyes from an offensive standpoint. I mean, no disrespect to Ohio State. They had a great year. I know everyone's going to give them trash about them being eight game program this year and being in the national championship, and that's not fair. Personally, I think they deserve to be there after seeing that whooping that they put on Clemson. They came in there with it's just Alabama was just that good. Offensively, I mean, you couldn't slow them down. And, a lot of people, I have a friend who's a diehard Ohio State fan, lives in Ohio. He called me and he said, do you think Texas has the weapons to actually recreate what Alabama has? And I said, I mean, we have athletes all over the place. Yes. Bijan, I wouldn't trade Bijan for the world. I think Joshua Moore's fantastic. All right, we haven't even seen what Troy O'Meara can do. But, it's all predicated off of the O-line play. So it all depends on how we can get that O-line ramped up quickly in a new scheme, blocking scheme, and see how that goes. But, hats off to the Alabama Crimson Tide. They were the best team this year. It was obvious. Not just, I hate using the eye test, but, the eye test said, they are the best team this year.
Sure. I think going back to the point you made, I think is key. Offensive line play. So jumping out at the beginning of the game, we've been on the Devonta Smith bandwagon for a minute now, and I'm going to get into some of the conversations that Tran and I have had
behind the
scenes, because we haven't talked a whole lot of college football. As much college football as we watch, we haven't talked a whole lot of college football, like outside of roundtable and on the channel, right? So, but we talk a lot about all these teams and players, and like we have our own little fan club of players we like outside of our own team. But you hit the nail on the head. The guys in the trenches. So Neal on Alabama offensive line, Leatherwood, like the guys that they were running behind. Dickerson didn't even play tonight except for the last play. They came at the end, which is cool. But like they're so physical, and everyone sees all the window dressing, and the scheme is awesome. The scheme is fire. That's why Chris Del Conte has gone and decided to go hire Steve Sarkeesian. Scheme's fire. He gets the ball to his playmakers. He's relentless, all gas, no brakes. We get that. But the physicality that they marry that with is very, very impressive. They don't have issues in short yardage. They set the tone. They set the line of scrimmage, whether they're running outside, whether they're running inside for tough yards. And it just beats down a defense so much and puts so much stress on Ohio State early in this game that you have no hope to stop us.
Mm-hmm.
You have no hope to stop us because Mac Jones, if he's pulling the ball out, there's orbit motion going on. There's there's traditional motion going on. There's all sorts of things that are going on. Oh, and by the way, if we hand the ball off to Najee Harris, you have to deal with that smoke too behind these massive offensive linemen.
Which the size of them, everyone knows the size, but also the athleticism that these guys have at the side. For them to pull up to the second level and get those blocks, it's pretty hard for a 300 plus guy to do. I mean, I'm 200, I'm 225. It'd be hard for me right now. So, I mean, just the athleticism that they have. And, that's if we do get Coach Flood coming over, I don't know, has that been announced or has it been set in stone?
It's not confirmed, but
it's not confirmed, but it's
likely.
Yes. If we get him and he can develop and recruit that type of talent here, I mean, I would be extremely happy with a strong offensive line. And I think you'd be in the same spot as me.
And it's important for us. Like, again, did Alabama run the football at a phenomenal efficiency clip tonight per se? Not necessarily. They have all year. And Najee Harris had stats, almost comparable to Derrick Henry in terms of efficiency per game. But the point is that physicality stood out to us up front, which then, Ohio State's trying to take that away, and then they get just roasted down, consistently all night long in coverage. When Devonta Smith was in there, we'll get to him in a sec, but I do want to get to your point about just finishing the offensive line, right? If Texas is able to establish that, and not to Alabama's level, we don't even have the size of those people.
Of course.
Let's we have
pump
to
the brakes on that one,
right?
Because I set expectations.
We have to set expectations because I already know there's Texas fans that are going to be expecting the 2020 Alabama offense year one at Texas. That's not realistic. But if you can have much better physicality and productivity from your offensive line next year, that will do wonders for us alone, for Bijan, our run game, and helping out our quarterback past the whole bit, right? That opens up everything else. So we can see those athletes being showcased more. Now, moving on to the weapons, because we are talking about, that's Devonta Smith, and I texted you this. This is what kind of triggered our Devonta Smith conversation.
This was around the LSU game. I don't know when the LSU game was.
I think it was the first week of December or the last week of November. I think it was like early December.
Yeah, it started off with did you see that catch? And then you went off on.
And because I had been feeling it for a while.
Yeah.
And I was like,
oh no, I know this. But I said, did you see Devontae's catch?
You said, did you see Devontae's catch? It was on Sting, Derek Stingley Jr. on LSU. And I said, this brother is starting to remind me of Jerry Rice in some ways in terms of how his impact is. I know the size is not the same. I'm not necessarily saying that. But in terms of just route running, how smooth he is, the hands, and the type of players he's dominating that get matched up on him. Like I think them losing Jalen Waddle, who we'll also talk about, and all eyes on him. And Mechie's a great player. Billingsley's going to be good. Like, they have other dudes. It's not like Alabama was destitute. But that offense was running through Devonta Smith after Jalen Waddle went down. In terms of the pass game. And I'm watching everyone knowing he's getting the ball, and Steve Sarkeesian is a huge part of this because there's plays where he's just the scheme is getting him open as well. But when you watch him run routes and break off people like Derek Stingley, and he's breaking off dudes like Sean Wade tonight, and the Florida, every game that they've been in, right? Notre Dame in the last game in the semifinal, good college football players, and they're not even competitive.
Yeah.
Against Devonta, they're not competitive, and he's put together. You think about his freshman year, he catches the game-winning touchdown pass in overtime. As a true freshman in a chaotic situation, he catches a game-winning touchdown, and the college career he's gone on to have, with all these dudes around him, from Calvin Ridley to Jerry Jeudy to Henry Ruggs, right? And like, I know I'm forgetting other, like Jalen Waddle.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's insane. It's insane the productivity that Devonta Smith has been able to have.
The only route that he lost on today was a terrible pass by Mac Jones, where it's behind him and it hit Sean Wade right in the stomach. Because Sean Wade, that's the only route that he lost on. I would say that, I guess you could say the injury one, but once again, that was Mac Jones setting him up to get laid out. He should have thrown it behind him where he falls backwards so he doesn't take the hit, but he threw it in front of him and he got laid out. And that's just, we're not talking about scrubs here. Everyone's been tearing apart Sean Wade online, and this is a different breed of guy that he's trying to guard. And
he called him out, though. I mean,
I understand that, but this is a different breed. And that defensive coordinator should have some tape on this dude. He put him in bad positions to try to be successful against the best player in college football.
I don't know what the Ohio State defensive coordinator's game plan was tonight. Piss poor. Because even the play where Devonta scored that touchdown on Tuf Borland, like, listen to what I just said. He scored a touchdown on Tuf Borland. Like, why is Tuf Borland anywhere near Devonta? Like, why aren't you rolling coverage into there? Bracket him. Mm-hmm. I mean, you were texting me like, "Hey, at this point, let's move." What did you text me about?
I wanted Sean Wade over on Minchie, because Minchie's routes that they like to run him are the quick slants for possessions. I wanted their second best defensive back on there to rough him up at the line and have a safety about 10 yards off the line of scrimmage to have it tighter double coverage against him. I mean, at that point, you're conceding the run. I know that.
Right, because you're assigning another resource to.
He had 200 plus yards in the first half. The idea of
after winning a Heisman Trophy.
Yeah. The reason why, let's say the Ravens, they made their team one-dimensional. They said, okay, you know what? Guess what? Henry's not stopping us today. He's not beating us today. We're gonna take our chances with Ryan Tannehill trying to win the game for us. And you know what happened? They made him one-dimensional, made him a passing quarterback, and he couldn't put it through. Is Najee Harris good enough to win the game? Yes, he is. But he had 22 carries for 79 yards. That's not his greatest production. But Devonta Smith had 200 plus yards by halftime. He was in sweats midway through the third quarter. Yeah, it was due to injury, but
yeah.
he won the. Did he win the MVP?
I don't. They had to have given it to Mac Jones. Hold on, I'll look it up while you're.
Keep going. If he got the MVP and played only a half, I mean, hats off to you, young man.
I don't think because Mac Jones did throw for something crazy.
He threw for 464 yards, so half of that went to him, though.
It's crazy, man. Like when I'm gonna look.
Oh, and 3 touchdowns. We didn't.
Yeah, 3 touchdowns. Yeah, I think because we started recording this while they were still kind of talking, so we haven't seen the what do we call it?
The celebration or the award ceremony.
Yeah, hold on. Who's MVP? Because I haven't seen the award ceremony.
Yeah. Last thing I said before I got up here was the.
Oh, they gave it to Devonta Smith.
There you go.
They gave it to Devonta Smith and for offensive MVP and Christian Barmore for defensive MVP. I would argue Mac Jones just because what he had to hold the lead and he did produce some touchdowns, whatnot. But when I say I'm not going to say argue. I'm going to say I understand if people want to argue Mac Jones. However, Devonta Smith blew this game.
Yes, I just want to say that
into the stratosphere.
I just want to say that the Ohio State Buckeyes had 24 points. Devonta Smith in a half had 18 points. So I think you can't really argue against Devonta Smith winning that award.
And the brother played a half. Well, Jalen Waddle. Did you think he should have played?
After the first catch where he limped off, I think he should have been done. I think, honestly.
I feel like they were trying to fool us in warm-ups because the brother was limping. I mean,
he looked good in warm-ups.
Yeah, but I felt like he was kind of favoring the ankle even in the warm-ups. That's also I was listening. There's a couple things I need to talk to you about, by the way.
Yeah.
Number one, I enjoyed the megacast. I started listening to the megacast on ESPN2 with Laura Rutledge and Mina Kimes and Dan Orlowski and Marcus Spears and Todd McShay. It was more like just a conversation and watch party than the traditional broadcast. I did the traditional broadcast and then I did their side.
Flipped over.
I should have told you I was watching that because like they were talking about draft stuff, but they were also talking about the Waddle situation and RJ Young and Joe Klatt were talking about Jalen Waddle's ankle as well. Number two is something you brought up to me the other day because we just need to get this stuff out the way. And you can speak to this. They got to get Lee Corso off TV. It's sad. It's not even funny, man. Enough's enough. That's a guy who I grew up as, he's a legend in the college football community. Probably at this point more so as a broadcaster than he was as a coach. And he's been phenomenal. Like I think of game day, I think of coach. Enough's enough. I mean, I'm listening to him today. I could not understand a word
I agree.
he was saying pregame. And you texted me about this because I didn't watch pregame. I didn't watch game day the other week. And you did.
Game of the year. We both said that. We said it's getting bad. I just I hold him in such high regard. Honestly, I grew up watching him every Saturday, and I hate to see him like this. But when I think of it from a different perspective too, maybe that's the thing that keeps him going. Is doing this, and he could be a figurehead for that. Which
that's fair. I didn't think about that.
Which could be the case, but when he's messing up the names of the teams, like we was talking about Florida Gators, but talking about Florida State, it's talking about Alabama and mixing up Alabama and Auburn. It gets a little rough, and you don't want to see him like that. So I hope he takes his retirement and enjoys his time down there. I think he's in Florida. And
I just want him to enjoy the rest of his life, because at some point dignity matters, in my opinion. And we remember him being sharp and being a mascot and hearing his voice on video games and all that type of stuff. Like just the energy he used to bring. He was more than a character. He used to analyze stuff. But now it's just like, they got him in the AT&T commercial with his hologram, and it's just awkward with David Pollock. And I'm just like, it's like the Stevie Wonder at the Grammys every year. Like, stop it. Stop trotting these guys out there. Let's have some dignity. That's just my personal opinion. If somebody wants to come on and correct me on that or say otherwise, that's cool. Getting back to the game, though, because as college football fans, I want to address all this stuff. Yeah. And we'll talk about it tomorrow night, too, with all you guys. But Um, Christian Barmore is a monster, Alabama defensive lineman. And my boy Tyler here was telling me about Barmore when he was a freshman. And I've watched this brother grow up. And he's another one that's going to go top 20 in the draft or whatever. And it's just
Surprise,
crazy.
surprise.
Yeah, like it's just crazy like how they have those guys churn out. Like, and Alabama defense this year, because there's going to be, all of us are talking, we've been talking even on this video about sky's the limit. I tweeted somebody about how many wheel routes are we going to see Bijan Robinson score next year for touchdowns in Sark's offense, like the way Najee gets all these. I don't know how many touchdowns Najee scored on wheel routes this year, but he's always open. And Bijan, we've already seen Bijan make money on that route in our previous offense. So I'm excited for all the offensive possibilities. But the big question tomorrow is going to be, who's the defensive coordinator? Is it Pete Golding, right? And we're watching, he's the Alabama defensive coordinator. He's won a national championship, and I feel like a lot of people are lukewarm on him because Alabama gave up points this year. But where do you fall on that? Because I feel like we have to reassess how we evaluate defensive coordinators as a whole these days. Because when you're going up against even Justin Fields and Olave and Garrett Wilson, like they're gonna score. They did a great job tonight.
I think they averaged 40-something points a game, and they held them to 24 points. I think Notre Dame averages 34 points a game, and they held them to 17. I mean, if you can
and it was a BS 17.
Yeah, and if you can hold a team when you have your complete attention, double digits under their 10 or more points under their actual season average, I think that's a win as a defensive coordinator, because offenses have evolved so much. I mean, you and I have talked about that within the last 5 years, let alone the last 10 years when Texas was a juggernaut at the defensive positions. So if he can bring that kind of attitude and that culture, because I think that's one of the big things when you're talking about, building out a factory where, another top 20 pick for the defensive line. It's building that culture, building that identity that, hey, you come here, we're going to develop you, and you're going to get into the league at a high pick where it's guaranteed money, and sell that to it and then back it up on the field. Yeah, that's fine. That's fine with me. I'll give up 24 points to
sure
OU.
And I know Nick Saban owns more of that side of the ball, so that's also his baby as well. And all these guys have there's skepticism, I think, for any coach that leaves the Saban umbrella. That leaves the Saban umbrella, because we've seen some guys struggle. It's no different than any other big time coaching tree. But when talking about Nick Saban, like, not only is he the GOAT at this point, but there's just something, like, I think we really do have to appreciate his greatness. And Marcus Spears was actually talking about this on the MegaCast, and I thought Marcus hit this right on the head about how Nick Saban is adapted and evolved. The thing, I'm not anti-old heads. I'm anti-old heads who refuse to adapt to the game.
To evolve.
Yeah. You have to evolve. And Marcus was talking about when Nick Saban decided to hire Lane Kiffin. Look, I got to go with the times. And then Nick Saban goes to that camp and was like, if you're not running a spread offense, you're not trying to win national championships. He was the one that told Kirby Smart that. And it cost Kirby Smart a championship, in my opinion, by waiting too long to fully embrace the style of offense that's just football now. That's what's happening at 7-on-7s now.
I thought you were going to say by starting Jake Fromm over Justin Fields.
That too cost him a championship. That too. He's. I mean, and championships are hard to come by.
Yeah.
So to be cavalier about those decisions and still be that, I'm going to be stuck in my defensive ways. And Kirby's not even that old. But Nick Saban's over here at 70 years old saying, you know what, these young guys that are, they're getting the ball out, playing with tempo, spreading the ball around, getting the athletes in space. That's the way to move these days. look, to me, the mark of a good defense is how are you situationally? Can you get stops at the end of the game? Can you get stops before the end of the half? And can you try to generate some turnovers? That's how I look at defenses now. This whole, like, no one is about to be out here as the 0-1 Ravens defense, bro. That's not happening anymore in football. Like, the best, like, that's that Patriots defense from last year, because this attitude is in college football and in the NFL, where people are just like, oh, they're trash. They gave up 27 points. And it's like, I mean, they're playing Patrick Mahomes. What do you want them to do? You cannot hold these people at bay for that long, especially with the way the rules are set up. Look how hard it
Yeah,
is to play defense. You get called for targeting. You're out the game. Like, there's so much against you.
and you're not bringing in a big factors in college football. The clock stops at every first down, so you're actually playing a lot more plays than you would if it was a running clock, regardless of anything like that. So, I mean, even if you're not playing one of those high tempo teams and they get a first down, you're still on the field a lot longer, and you're getting tired a lot longer because you're taking more snaps, and most teams don't have the too deep depth to throw people in there to make sure that, and that's where a lot of defensive breakdowns happen. There's when a team is either tired or they're going and switching into their second personnel.
Mm-hmm.
So
Another question I have. How will Mac Jones be remembered? Because I feel like he's another guy who's now flying up the draft boards. There's a lot of people who have him kind of as like a late first round pick. They're starting to talk about potentially 5 quarterbacks going in the first round. Yeah, and I think it was a big deal for him to have the second half that he had in this championship game without Devonta in there and Jalen Waddle, and I personally don't think Jalen Waddle should have played. I don't know if I answered that question earlier. I mean, I'm glad. I think it's cool that he did, and I think the NFL is going to look highly on him gutting it out for his team. And I know Alabama fans will always love him, but I just think that scenario is too risky for me and for his future. But in terms of Mac Jones, showed a lot of toughness today. His pocket mobility, for somebody who's not really a great athlete, just able to. He always seems to kind of know how to navigate. Joe Burrow was really good at that, but Joe Burrow is a good athlete. How do you see Mac Jones translating to the next level? Because he hasn't played a whole lot of football to me.
I'm a little torn. I know this is going to be one of those things where you come back like, see, but I just don't think he's going to translate very well in the NFL, honestly. Depending on the team that he's on, of course.
That's where I'm at. It's going to depend on the team.
So if he is let's say mid to late round, he could fall into a team that just needs a backup quarterback, and he can come in and learn in a year and then pick up the game speed, and he could be serviceable. I don't think he's going to be a star in the NFL. But I think he's going to be in the league for quite a while, barring injury.
Yeah, I think I like Mac Jones, and I like the physical development, and I like the traditional quarterback skills. I worry about the mobility, and I worry about he was on such an amazing team with an amazing scheme. And we saw, like, let's be real, we saw Tua struggle a little bit this year when separated from that, and now we put you in a traditional NFL offense. There's some things that Mac Jones does a little bit better in the pocket than Tua does, but to me, like, they're talking about Mac Jones being a first round pick. So my thing is, if he's a first round pick, like, where, like you said, where is he going? What's the plan? Hasn't played a whole lot of football, but I think the advantage for him, just like it was for Lamar Jackson a few years ago, is if you go to at the end of the first round, like the Packers this year took Jordan Love, right? And it's kind of a draft and stash. That kid's just sitting there, developing quietly. Patrick Mahomes got stashed on a good team. Lamar got stashed until Joe Flacco just was horrible, and they had to put Lamar Jackson in. But when he gets in the game, he's already on a good team, so they're just like, hey, do you, and we can kind of move with it. Mac Jones could he's going to end up on like a playoff team. So, maybe it's a better situation for him. I just don't think he could go and end up in a situation that a traditional rookie quarterback ends up in and be successful. I don't think he has those tools at that level. So I do agree with that.
Could he end up at a New Orleans or a Tampa Bay?
That would be an ideal situation for him.
Yeah, because I mean that they're going to be looking at a project quarterback because I mean this could be Breeze's last year. We don't know. Tom, I don't think this is his last year unless he has a horrific injury.
Mm-hmm.
But Tom Brady is what, 42 years old?
42, 43, I think.
43. Yeah, something like that. So if he's going to play 2 more, he's 45 years old. That's 870 years old in real life.
He wants to play till he's, that TB12 serum that he got.
Yeah. But I mean, if he can learn under that. And
I think those are the ideal situations for him, honestly, versus coming in there and being expected to compete day one or be the starter. I think that's a tough ask. I want to move over to Justin Fields before I ask you one other question and we wrap this. Justin Fields, how do you feel about him coming out of tonight?
Same thing. I think he's the second quarterback off the board. I think he's a possible can't miss prospect. I think he was still hurt from the hit 10 days ago, and even when he got hit in the first quarter, he even got up really gingerly. So I mean, I think he was really hurt. He has a lot nicer touch than I thought he did. I mean, even this game, he had a couple of really good passes in the back corner. I know one of them got dropped, got bobbled. Back shoulder passes, deep balls. I think he's going to be good, and especially the way the NFL is going, where you have to have some mobility. He's got deceptive speed for his size too. Or what is he? 225, 230?
225. And
he has a little bit breakaway speed where he can get those first downs and pick up sticks. So, I mean, I'm pretty comfortable with saying he's a good second quarterback off the draft board.
I know there's some people that prefer Zach Wilson's arm talent out of BYU over Justin Fields, but I'm still in the camp with you just because of how dynamic Justin Fields can be. And honestly, the pressure that's been on him since coming out of high school, he's had a lot of pressure on him. ESPN had him number 1. I mean, he's been neck and neck with Trevor Lawrence, and Trevor Lawrence was, kind of the number 1 overall in the class. Whereas, Zach Wilson kind of, is more of a late bloomer. But Justin Fields today, overmatched. He wasn't great. He was good. He had some good moments, but unless he was going to be like Deshaun Watson with somebody being the Mike Williams of his receivers, which they just didn't really have. I mean, they tried to compete early and keep up score for score, but they needed to be perfect on offense. Didn't like their offensive game plan either. Yes, he missed some throws. He missed one in the back of the end zone to Julian Fleming. That should have been a touchdown, but I thought Olave got his foot down on the touchdown before.
The toe tap.
I thought that was a touch.
The bobble from
Njigba. Yeah.
I mean, that's a freshman mistake, but that was placed right where you needed him to place.
Those are good throws, and those are very, very difficult throws.
Those are NFL throws. Yeah.
Yes. So. But overall, like, he didn't play at the level he did against Clemson, and to replicate that was almost an impossible ask. But I think overall, when he interviews, they just see the type of kid he is and how he's developed just in the short period of time.
Yeah, I also think going back to his baller game against Clemson, I think I don't know if it was our text message between me, you, and Arrington, where I said that may be the biggest mistake that happened is him blowing out this team and putting up that number just to get Alabama's full attention. If they would have just scraped by and beat him, I don't think they would have had Alabama's full attention like that. So
Alabama,
Yeah, I know
Nick
it's the
Saban.
national championship. I get it. It's the national championship, but I mean, it was like video game for him. Just deep routes, go, go, go. Just yeah.
I do want to speak to the attention point real quick. I am very impressed with Steve Sarkeesian's focus on this game. If you just saw this
Recruiting
game,
video.
if you just saw this game, you would have not known that he just took a job and has been kind of working, dabbling, because he's been having to do some work with the job, right? He's having to talk to staff. He had to do a lot of media, all this type of stuff going into the national championship game. I'm impressed with the focus because I didn't see like I saw Tebow talking about before about when Dan Mullen was his offensive coordinator and had accepted the Mississippi State job, and there was some worry about he's here one day, he's gone the next day, and we're prepping for a bowl and all this type of stuff. Didn't see any of that with Steve Sarkeesian. The same thing they've said all year. Every time somebody had a question, he had an answer. Every single time, as a play caller. And a lot of people have been asking, is he going to call plays at Texas? Yes, he's going to call plays at Texas. I read something on Twitter. I think it's true from one of these reporters that he talked to Charlie Strong about Texas, and just saying all the right things. And he just said it was all positive, and Charlie said he's going to do great here. But us as Texas fans, we're just excited for the new era. And if that is an what the type of scheme we'll be running in
Foreshadowing
to
Yeah.
how people are going to be coached up, then sign me up for that. Absolutely. How can you not be excited for that? How can you not be excited for that? The last question I want to ask you is, because you're going to start seeing this over the coming days, and I'm going to end with a flame. 2019 LSU or 2020 Bama?
I'm going to say 2019 LSU. And that's because they played 2 more games. And I think they had a pretty tough non-conference schedule too, adding us in there at full strength. That was an amazing team. I mean, Joe Burrow was it was special to watch, honestly, because when we came out of that LSU versus Texas game, I think your brother texted you like, usually your brother talks trash about Texas because, hey man, all respect in the world, Joe Burrow was damn near perfect, and he was basically that all year. So I'm gonna go with 2019 LSU, just because of that.
I'm going 2019 LSU just because I like the defensive personnel just a tad bit more than Bama's group, and I get Jamar Chase in there. And then to me, 2020 Alabama has the edge at running back. I know Clyde was a beast, but he wasn't what Najee was this year. Chase, Smith kind of cancel each other out, but either one of them you weren't stopping it scheme wise. I'd actually say Bama's line this year was better than 2019 LSU. For me, the edge for LSU, as great as Mac Jones was, and I know Mac Jones efficiency wise, I think is ahead of Burrow, but Burrow was just what I could also get from Burrow in the run game. I'm still going to lean towards 2019 LSU, but I think that's a fun debate because Mac Jones has been open and saying that they think that they're going to have they could be looked at as one of the best teams ever because they only played SEC games and then they jumped right into the playoffs and did what they did. So I think he has every right to feel that way, but I think that's an ongoing discussion that will be coming in the college football world this offseason.
Yeah, I mean they both have a really good claim to it. It's personally what I saw with LSU is like I just didn't think that anyone was in a game with them. I know Alabama, the final scoreboard said that they were in a game, but it wasn't close. It wasn't close, and I mean, they can make the same argument that it wasn't close
We were
with
probably
Florida.
I would say, but us and Auburn were the closest to 2019 LSU.
But I mean, even us. I mean, we needed a miracle onside kick to even get a chance at that. So I mean, they were still up by one full possession against us. Auburn, I just thought that they just brought it to them. That was the only team that I thought brought it to them from a defensive perspective. Jamming their receivers at the line, not being afraid to go against them. But I mean,
even at the end, they got worn down too.
Yeah.
At the end, yeah. The 2019, they were inevitable. 2020, Bama's inevitable. Very interesting conversation. And I know a lot of these kids on Alabama 2019 people will say, well, hold up, Steve Tran. A lot of these dudes were in the game in 2019, but they're not, Mac Jones, they guys evolve, they get better, progress, coached up, all those things. Steve Sarkeesian, safe travels coming to Austin. Let's get the
congrats, Charlie Strong.
Congrats, Charlie.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, Charlie Strong.
Celebrating. Yeah.
National champion. Kudos. Got another one. Congrats, Steve Sarkeesian. I'm excited to see what this staff finally looks like. Getting that nailed down, finish up recruiting.
When do you think we'll have the full staff?
This week.
By Wednesday? It's got to be pretty soon because
they got to hit the ground running. Yeah.
So you thinking Wednesday we should have it locked all down? Maybe even tomorrow because they have
tomorrow
it locked
down. Tomorrow Wednesday, I would probably guess. But yeah, they don't have much time, right? I wouldn't be surprised if texts are already going out tonight to kids, just to say, hey, let's get to work, right?
Bagmen are being sent.
It's a new day.
Open checkbook.
It's a new day. Nah, I'm excited. I am excited. Look, they got to win, and we know we've been excited before for various coaches. But this I don't know. This just starting to feel a little different. And the type of person and just the environment and the climate we're at as a fan base, as a school, what we need. We are desperate. No way around it. We are very, very desperate to win.
Yep.
But I think just seeing what the possibility are when you have your shit together, like we saw with Alabama, this is what could look like. The biggest question is, can we have the type of environment of focus that's what I'm looking to see if anybody can recreate. It's not necessarily the offense. We've had a lot of people all around college football with dynamic offenses and great seasons. Can you recreate the level of focus that Nick Saban seems to have out of his kids year in, year out? That's why Alabama's going to be successful no matter who the hell they get as their coaching staff next year. Because at the end of the day, whether the scheme is good or bad, they're going to execute. They're going to execute. They're going to be focused, and they have credibility. The attention to detail is going to be there. Whatever they're being taught, that's why he's successful year in, year out. So can Steve Sarkeesian take some of those things he learned from kind of programming the mind in a certain way for these kids so that no matter, regardless of what they're running scheme-wise, look, Casey Thompson and Hudson Card are very different quarterbacks from Mac Jones, right? They're going to have more quarterback run stuff for them, whereas Alabama had no quarterback run stuff. Like, it's going to look more like Tua's offense with RPOs and all that. But where that level of mental focus and mental toughness is what I'm looking to see if that can be brought into the program. And only time will tell.
Yep.
Only time will tell. Because everything's going to sound good until we play Louisiana. Like, we're going to go to the spring game, and they're going to look good. And we're all going to be excited. We're going to be like, you see? Look. And then all I say, and I said this with the Cowboys too, when Mike McCarthy, I'm like, we're all going to feel good until Mike McCarthy loses the first game. And then all of a sudden it's going to be like, whoa, wait. And I'm not trying to wish that on Sark or anything like that. I'm just saying everything's going to feel like it's feeling right now until we get hit in the mouth by somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I get to see, are we just carrying over a new scheme, or are we carrying over a new culture, a new mental mindset? That's the change I'm looking for.
The sad thing about that is we're not giving that time for that culture to set in. Right away, we hammer in on it.
We do.
And, you know,
that's why we made the change, right? I mean,
yeah.
I hear you, but who has time for patience here?
We don't. We definitely don't. Side note is, in 2 years, we are playing Alabama here in Texas. I would love it for Steve to be the first former Saban assistant to beat him.
Hey, let's do it.
I would love that. I would love that. Yeah.
Well, hey, I'm excited. We'll be back tomorrow. College football roundtable. I'm real tired, so we're gonna, post this, jump it out. Congratulations to the Alabama Crimson Tide on yet another national championship. The GOAT, Nick Saban, does it again. 52-24 over Ohio State. Great season for the Ohio State Buckeyes, all things considered. And shout out to college football as a whole for getting through a COVID season. Lots of challenges, not always pretty, a lot of political stuff going on, but they made it. And so I think that is something we can all be proud of, and hopefully move forward into a better year, and getting kind of back to whatever the normal is going to be. So, Tran, appreciate you. I'll see you in a few hours. And
Yes,
we'll be back at it, man. We'll be back at it. But to Coach Sark and those out there, we are going to throw the horns up.
Always.
Horns always up. Appreciate y'all.